is a new friend to me. We met recently. He and his wife, Bria, are chiropractors in the area and have done a lot with fitness. He's done some of this before in the past, led some challenges. And so we're going to let Matt kind of take over tonight, go through a presentation. He said he's going to be about 45 minutes and we'll be done. But just so you know, tonight is not the beginning of the challenge. Matt is going to go through what the challenge is, when it starts, and give you a few days to do what I did for a while, eat meatballs and just clear all the junk out for a second, okay? And kind of get yourself ready and prepared for this. So Matt, come on down. Give it up for Matt for doing this for us. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Darren. So, like Darren was saying, my wife and I, Bria and I, have been practicing here in Santa Rosa at our chiropractic practice for about coming up on 6 years now. And I do chiropractic. I'm also a functional medicine practitioner. So, when we see people who aren't really healing a lot, we start to ask all these other questions. We want to look at that person holistically. So this like fits so well into what Darren was talking about this reset. Spiritual, mental, physical. There's so many moving parts to this stuff. It can be really kind of convoluted or complicated at times. But we want to kind of make this as easy as possible to just follow along and see how we can come out the other side just a better version of ourselves. So we started coming to the church, back in January. But we knew a lot of really cool people who were coming through our office before that. And we're like, these people are like really cool. Like, much, not cool. There's people who are cooler than other people. And we're like trying to pick up a pattern here. We're like seeing, oh, you go to New Vintage too. You go to New Vintage. So eventually we were just like, okay, we got to go check out what's going on there. And so, having known people like Christy and a lot of other people who come here, it's just been, as soon as we walked in, it just felt like home. And that kind of goes along with just like this, what this reset is designed to do. It's designed to kind of really help us be the best version of ourselves when we are out there in our community, right? Because that's what this is about. This is about reaching out to make Santa Rosa and the greater Sonoma County area a better place through our actions. And if I truly feel that if we're not feeling our best, it's hard to do that. It's harder to do that than it would if you were feeling on top of your game. And so when you're eating better, sleeping better, exercising, the body just there's something magical that happens, right? The way that we're designed, that's for a lot of those things. And then we can go out and show people by example how we can affect the community in a really positive way. And so a little bit of background on me and how I got involved in this stuff. When I was younger, I know Darren was saying like, I look like, he was joking that I had like a lot of health problems and stuff, which it's taken me years to kind of, tweak and tinker with a lot of this stuff. Because when I was younger, definitely had my own issues. A lot of allergies. My dad thought that was the excuse for me not to mow the lawn, but it really was. Every time I was like going out there, my head felt like it was going to explode. Couldn't even step into my grandma's house because she owned about 5 cats, and as soon as I opened the door, it was just like achoo, and just it wouldn't stop until I left. So allergies were a huge thing for me. Dealt with a lot of fatigue, and that fatigue slowly, it lasted years, and it slowly kind of started turning into kind of like depression, and kind of like my brain just wasn't really firing, and I'm going, okay, like this is really weird. So I had talked to medical doctors, I had talked to specialists, allergists, and their answer was that, hey, diet doesn't really have much to do with it, any of it. You just have to get shots in your arms twice a week for your allergies, and that should kind of clear things up. And I go, okay, well, let me get a fourth opinion. So, and that opinion was just kind of doing my own research. And as I went on, I realized how much diet and nutrition and getting back to more of an unprocessed anti-inflammatory diet really does make a difference for a whole host of things that we'll go over in a little bit. But this goes far beyond kind of just, the waist size, right? The circumference of our waist or the scale, what the scale is telling us. This goes way beyond that into how we look, feel, perform, how our brain feels. And so that's kind of what got me into this. And I just kept thinking like, wow, after I had a couple of years of kind of healing some of this stuff, I realized like, hey, yeah, God designed us not with disease as our default mode of operation. disease is just a sign that we've kind of deviated off of the path to health. And the sooner we can catch that deviation and correct it, the easier it is to get on path. When those things start to diverge a lot later down the road with more time, yeah, it's going to take more time to kind of come back to find that path. So the easiest way is kind of prevention. So whether you're feeling like super great now, or you know that you're really in need of a reset like this, doesn't matter. I mean, the best way is prevention. That's, what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if we can just kind of reinforce some of the great things that you guys are already doing, awesome. Let's keep on that. For the rest of us, maybe we need a good swift reminder in the pants. But I promise I won't be the hard hand of judgment on this. But I think in groups like this, it really helps to keep us accountable, and say, I'm not the only one suffering. And, I have all these people, this community of people who are also going through this transformation, this transition, and we're all going through this together, so we know that we're all not suffering alone. But hopefully there's not too much suffering along the path here. So again, why do I feel called to do this is because this church is getting ready to launch all these different programs and groups to go out into our community and affect it in a really positive way. So no matter what you decide to do and how you decide to serve, improving your health is only going to allow you to do more and be more, as you feel better, right? So, that's kind of what I hope to see to kind of come out the end of the other side of this. So, Christy, we'll go to kind of the next slide. This guy. What is metabolism? You can kind of think of it as like this crazy chemical set. That's probably a little bit more accurate than say like a bank. Like we hear about the word metabolism and we think either some people are blessed with a fast metabolism, and then some others are cursed with a slow metabolism. And I wish it were that easy, but it looks more like this guy, and tinkering and all these different moving parts together. Let's see, I took the textbook definition down, and I tried to boil it down to as simple as possible. It's chemical processes that occur to maintain life. And again, the further we get away from how we were kind of designed to have nutrition in our diet and movement in our daily routines, the further we get along with that, we see those alterations happen. They're expressed through a multitude of things, not just our waist size, but different diseases that we'll talk about. So we have to get kind of out of this mindset of looking at our metabolism as a bank account and just saying calories in equals calories out, and if you make too many deposits and not enough withdrawals, you're going to be in some bad shape. We have to look at this more as a chemistry set. There's a lot of different moving parts, and so what we need is to remove as much as we can, simplify, and then we can move forward from there. Because each of you are all different. You all have different metabolisms, and so what works for one person is not going to work for the next, but we all have to kind of come from a single starting point, and then we can work forward from there. And it's kind of cool. In this reset that I put together, we are going to have a little bit of self kind of tracking, and we'll talk about what that looks like. Our big measurement for this is going to be with blood sugar. So, you hear that and you're like, I'm not diabetic. Why is this? But what we know about the metabolism is that blood sugar is one of the earliest signs for when things start to not go so cool. We start to see blood sugars going way high or way low. That can be an early predictor, about 5, 10, or 15-year predictor to getting things like diabetes or obesity or heart disease or cancer, et cetera, et cetera. It's linked to a lot of other stuff. So let's go to the next slide is, again, so why do I need a reset? Like I said, some of us feel great already. Some of us know we kind of need this. So I'll read a list of things why you think you might be here tonight. Maybe a friend tricked you or dragged you here tonight. Your bird watching group got canceled due to COVID, and you need something to do on a Tuesday evening other than watch Netflix. Like Darren said, you may have gained the COVID-20 and you don't know how to lose it. Maybe some of the women in here, you didn't get that answer you were hoping for when you asked your husband or your partner, does this make me look fat? And husbands, you know why you're here if you gave that wrong answer. But the real reasons, maybe you are dealing with a health problem. And maybe you have an inkling, maybe you have an insight that, hey, maybe this could be related to diet. Because we don't always hear that. We don't, if you go to a medical doctor, they're not necessarily trained in nutrition. So they think, this has nothing to do with what you're putting in your body. Maybe you're stressed. There's a lot of things to stress about these days, right? Stress has a physiological effect on our health, day in and day out. Maybe you've heard conflicting information by things online. You've searched things and you hear chocolate's good for me. Oh, chocolate's bad for me. Red wine's good for me. Red wine's bad for me. So hopefully we want to clear some of this up as we go through and test ourselves and find out what does actually work for you as an individual. So you want to look, feel, perform the way you did 10, 20 years ago. It's always said that it's just part of aging. And while maybe some of that's true, it's not 100%. There are ways that we can age a little bit more gracefully than others. Maybe you're awesome already, but, let's face it, you could always be awesomer. So, that's everyone, right? But one of the reasons, and I love this analogy because it makes me look like I'm a super genius whenever my wife tells me that the internet's gone out, right? So instead of calling the customer service line at the internet service provider and waiting on hold for an hour just to talk to somebody, and then they tell me, is it plugged in? Okay, I don't want to deal with that. So I reach back way into my nerd gaming days that I used to do and all my technology, and I kind of get into that mode, and I go, I got this, babe, don't worry. So I go out into the router, unplug it, wait 5 seconds, plug it back in, another minute, boom, it's on, right? So whether you're a router or a person or an iPhone, if your phone is starting to go on the fritz, what does he do? You power it down, power it back up, magically, things start to work technologically. These are complex systems. I don't know all the circuitry and stuff that's going on in there. And to be honest, no one fully understands each person's physiology to that kind of degree. So what we have to do is just kind of give ourselves a little reset, and it should all be good from there. And lastly, it's sometimes we forget how good we can feel until we kind of reset do a little backwards and put a little effort in and kind of sweat through it a little bit. What's the saying? There's the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And so for the 21 days, I hope you feel the pain of discipline instead of the pain of regret. But hopefully, again, it shouldn't be too painful. I hope not. Let's go to the next slide. And this is kind of, again, now we want to kind of zoom out. Okay, it's hopefully I want you to start understanding what's your why. Why are you here, and how can you benefit personally from this? One of the things we're going to talk about is over time, we may not realize these issues, but over time, our appetite changes, not just from if our belly's full or empty, but our brain. Our brain is the thing that tells the rest of our body, hey, I'm full, put down the fork, or pick it up for another bite, or here comes dessert. So yeah, all of a sudden I have a second stomach growing, and I'm hungry again. So the neuroregulation of appetite is a fancy word for saying that's the brain's job. The brain tells us if we're hungry or not, and that can get overridden. So just like you go and fill up, we all live in California, so a lot of us drive cars. Some of us have awesome electrical vehicles, so I guess this may not apply to you. But for those mere mortals who are still driving gas powered cars like myself, you go to the gas station, you put your payment in, you start pumping, and then you can just kind of just zone out, right? You can think about whatever, or if the ad plays to you, and you're just kind of like, oh yeah, cool, okay. Why? Because they have the feedback system, right? Where once it fills up your gas tank, click, turns off. That's when a feedback system works the right way. But our brains, with the modern foods that we have now, that feedback system has been totally overridden and altered. And I don't paint myself as a conspiracy theorist or anything, but I do want to share this with you. That never, like the next thing never is good when you start a sentence that way, by the way. But you gotta kind of stop and think about the hundreds of millions of dollars over the years that these food companies have poured into their R&D, research and development departments, in order to get you to continue eating, right? And they brag about it in commercials. Once you stop, you just can't pop. Yeah, right? I bet you can't just have one. Or, it's like they know what they're doing to sell you more of these processed foods. But I don't recall, maybe you do, a campaign on like broccoli or, fish or all that stuff. So food companies, it's kind of an uphill battle. Our brains are kind of wired for some of these like calorically dense foods, and they know how to get us kind of hooked on that. So again, it's not only resetting our waistband here, it's about resetting our neuroregulation of appetite and getting our brain more sensitized, not desensitized to these hyper-palatable foods like Doritos and nachos and all this stuff. Let's go to the next slide. When we start to zoom out a bit, this is what's going on in our country, which is one of the wealthiest countries that we see. I wouldn't have been talking about this maybe 30 years ago, when we had more starvation and undernutrition in the world. Now we have overnutrition, and that's what this looks like. So I keep forgetting it's like right up here in front of me too. So blood sugars disorders affect almost a quarter of us, almost 25% of Americans. And 100 million Americans are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. So pre-diabetic means you're kind of right on the cusp before falling over the edge. That's where you can still catch things early, which is cool. And one of the scariest part is that 1 in 4 people with diabetes don't even know they have it. That's also scary, because there's so many complications with blood sugar issues. And again, not a lot of us are like, how does this pertain to me? I don't have diabetes. We'll get there. And so, again, the whole idea of think globally, but act locally. And locally, this is like really locally, like to yourself. But not only that, once you start to go through this reset, and maybe people are starting to ask you, hey, like, you're looking better, or you seem like you have more energy these days. Like, what's going on? That way you kind of get to meet those people out in this community, in our local community, and kind of have a positive effect on them and share what you got going on there. So let's go to the next slide. This is also another one of my whys. This is what we're seeing. Does anybody know that the name of the shape of this curve? It's not just linear. This is exponential, which means it is growing at a faster and faster rate every year, or at every point. So this is gonna affect somebody we know, or multiple people that we know. And so what better way to address it than kind of be that shining example in our community to other people, so that we can kind of have that effect on them. And then the next slide, I know I'm throwing a lot of graphs and stuff at you. This is childhood and adolescent. Okay, so my why again is like, if we're setting our future generations up not even to be, at least have a chance to be healthy, then what does our future look like? What does their future look like? And it's alarming when you're starting to see just this exponential occurrence of childhood obesity and things like that, and it all is stemming from our food system and the way that we have more sedentary life with electronics and things like in our day-to-day routines. So the cool thing is, all this is really preventable. There is a genetic component to some of this, but as we'll come to find out, genes are not the whole picture. So this stuff is going to cost us buku bucks if we don't address it. And again, I think if we take on that personal responsibility of our health, then we don't have to outsource that to somebody else and be like, oh, well, when it happens, somebody else will take care of me, because that's a little too late. We've veered off, that we've diverted from the path of health too far to kind of come back. So again, we want to catch it early, and then we can kind of get back onto that road. All right, so next slide. Again, I was a fan of the Austin Powers movie, so I was like, how can I just give me a reason to put in Dr. Evil in there? So when we break down the costs, this is what I was talking about. It doesn't matter if we have Medicare for all or if we have private insurance. It doesn't matter who pays for it. It's going to bankrupt the system eventually when we're looking 50, 60, 70 years down the road if we don't do something about it now. And so we get to, I'm not going to go through all those, maybe a different time if you want, but if you combine the current number of diabetic patients with those who are projected to get diabetes or prediabetes in the future because of our food system, you get the Dr. Evil numbers of like $900 billion. So anyway, I have to do the Mr. Bigglesworth. Yes. So let's go to the next slide. And the real question is, why not? Why not? If there's always a chance to improve ourselves or make it's not like we're trying to compare ourselves to anyone today. We want to just compare ourselves to who we were yesterday. And if we can do just one more thing to really help ourselves in that. So a couple of things that the reason why we're focused on metabolic health, again, metabolism being that kind of mix of chemical processes that happen in order to sustain our health and sustain life. Why are we so focused on metabolic health? We're going to go through the spiritual and the mental and emotional parts of it during this whole reset thing, which I'm really looking forward to myself. For this reset, or for this part of things, again, we want to look at the metabolic health because they're such a strong predictor. Blood sugar, things like that are such strong predictors for all these other diseases that I can list off for you. Cardiovascular disease, nerve damage or neuropathy, kidney damage, obesity, even eye health like cataracts, autoimmunity, which is something that's on the rise too, headaches, migraines, brain fog, seizures, joint pain and arthritis. As a chiropractor, I'm looking at that stuff when I'm noticing somebody's not quite going, they're not getting the results that we had planned, we have to look at their diet and say, what inflammatory thing that you're being exposed to or eating is stopping you from healing all the way? And then we start to see them recover a little bit quicker, which is cool. Feet problems, hand problems, poor circulation, not to mention that diabetes can sometimes lead to amputation. So again, you guys are like, whoa, I did not expect this, right? But again, we hear this as like, oh, well, that's kind of part of the normal aging thing. When I'm in my 50s or 60s or 70s, it's like, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. How did Darren say it? You were fearfully and beautifully created. Yeah, wonderfully. Yeah, thank you. And so we want, we need to do our part so that God can help us live the life that He wants us to have. Right? I think is the gist of what he was saying. Let's go to the next slide here. Again, we want to look at more of this, just the calories in and calories out. So what we eat or drink either nourishes us towards health or it causes inflammation and moves us away from health. Okay, so we're always making these decisions every meal. So if you make a mistake during this whole the 21 days, or let's face it, we kind of timed it where, unfortunately, I think 4th of July falls in this. So that's on me. There's never a good time to pick 21 days straight to eat clean, right? But if you slip up one day, guess what? You're only one day away from just getting back on track, which is where we want you to be. So, you don't even have to have obesity or be overweight to have some health issues, right? I mean, you can see somebody walking down the street and you might not even know their situation or their health concerns. We're all going through our own struggles, and some of the people who aren't overweight, they may have some of those other diseases that we listed off of, or maybe they're not even aware. Thinner people can have diabetes, so that's why it's always a good idea to try to push ourselves and be a little bit better than we were yesterday by some of this stuff. All right, let's run through a couple slides here. So genes, genetics. We think, well, because I have this gene, I'm going to get this disease, or my metabolism works this way. Well, genes are like the gun, and your environmental factors, your daily choices, your sleep patterns, your exercise, the food that you eat, those are the environmental factors that pull the trigger. So if you imagine a switchboard of all these kind of light switches, those are your genes. They can be on or they can be off. We call them they're expressed or they're not expressed. And epigenetics is this newer field of study where they're looking at how do those genes get turned on and off. Because two people can have the gene for Alzheimer's, and one person maybe falls into that pattern, unfortunately, and kind of goes through that process, but the other one doesn't. So what's the difference? And there's some really cool evidence coming out on that, and how it's linked to diet too. So, we may get a chance to talk about that stuff, but really, when it comes down to, you want to look good in your genes, but you also want your genes to look good. So the choices that you make are going to respond to your decisions. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Kind of conventional ways is kind of after the fact, after we've had a diagnosis. Things are addressed once we have a diagnosis, and it's with insulin, it's with other medications, and they're very good at managing that condition. It's great. That's their wheelhouse. But our wheelhouse, next slide, looks a little bit different. Our wheelhouse is we're looking at the lifestyle factors, and I like this because I always want to know what can I do? What am I responsible for? And these are the things that are somewhat, for the most part, under our control, which is very self-empowering, right? So you have the industrialized diet. We know that negatively affects our metabolism and blood sugar. Physical inactivity, a big one. That upper middle picture is me in bed probably at like 7 a.m. wanting to hit the snooze button. But if that's me at like 12 or 1 o'clock and later, that might be not a good life decision there. Sleep deprivation. So whether this is kind of more or less under your control, some of you it's not. Some of you have swing shifts to work or graveyard shifts, and so I want to try to give you some strategies when it comes to sleep, how you can improve that, because that has a huge effect on our metabolism and inflammation and our disease state. So we'll kind of go through some strategies later on as the weeks go by. See a couple other ones. Chronic stress. Human beings, we were designed more for short-term stress. So if you think about, you're outrunning a tiger. I don't know whenever you would outrun a tiger. Hopefully that never happens to you. But that's always the example they give. So I don't know if they they think you're like some kind of gazelle or a zebra. But there is a book. It's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And the reason is because, a zebra on the plains gets chased down by a tiger. Its life is at stake. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to survive this. If it survives, awesome for the zebra, not so awesome for the lion. But it kind of ramps down. It doesn't think about that for months and go, oh my God, remember that time where we almost got eaten, It's our bodies are kind of that way. Our bodies are designed for short-term stress. That's why exercise is so good for you, right? Exercise is a short-term stressor. But it's when we start to dwell on these long-term stressors up here, that's when our body is not geared towards that. It's not designed to handle that for a long period of time. So we'll kind of talk about some strategies on how to do that. Let's see, what's the other one? Some environmental toxins and disrupted gut microbiota. That basically means the bacteria that live in us and on us. And there's always this kind of cool waging of a war that's going on within you of the good guys and the bad guys, and whichever ones you feed is the ones that will prevail in that. So every time you're eating your healthy food, you can be like, go good guys. All right, let's go to the next slide. So this is our approach in kind of a functional medicine and kind of a reset, this kind of prevention. What we're looking at is we want to start at the pyramid. We realize, yes, there is room at the top, for medication as a kind of a later resort. But whenever, I don't know about you guys, whenever I'm building pyramids, which is all the time, you want to start at the bottom, right? So diet, gut, nutrient balance, those are all kind of encompassed on what we're going to address here in this physical reset. We're also going to look at physical activity. And no, I'm not going to ask everybody in here to like join a CrossFit gym, because there's no one size fits all thing, right? And I don't even do CrossFit, but it's what works for each of us. So if you've gone from maybe right now you're just happy sitting on the couch and surfing through Netflix is where you're at. Maybe it's just a walk around the block. And if that's your goal, I want you to set your own goals. And that's kind of where I'm going to be kind of giving you some worksheets and things to do in the future, just so that you can kind of help keep yourself accountable. I wish I had time to kind of go one-on-one with each of you, but this is about you and you. This is between you and what you feel capable of, and how you can just push yourself a little bit to see, hey, I walked 3 blocks today, and I haven't done that in 2 years, or whatever it is. And that's awesome. Okay, that's what this is about. It's positive change. We will get a chance to talk about some supplements and botanicals, so that kind of second tier. These things can be helpful, but that's just what they are. They're supplements. They're not replacements, right? We still, when you build a pyramid, trust me on this one, when you build a pyramid, you start at the bottom. So if you're not addressing the things at the bottom, those upper second and third tiers are not as effective. They're not going to do their job. So even if you are having some blood sugar issues and it's all out of the place, if we just rely on the insulin and the medication without addressing the bottom stuff, yeah, you might get some improvement, but not all the way. And if you start addressing those things while you're on the medication, you'll see your medication become so much more powerful and effective that way. All right, so let's go to the next one. This is blood sugar. So this is kind of how we're measuring through this metabolic reset. I should forewarn you that, yeah, we want to measure, and the best way we can do that right now with the technology that we have that's affordable, we are going to just do little finger prick testing. And this isn't required. You don't have to do this, but this is if you're a geek like me and you like to see numbers and data and kind of, geek out on all that, then this is really cool, because you get to see the changes from day to day or hour to hour sometimes, and directly on what you're eating or not eating. You say, we're going to do some fasting, who knows? I didn't see anybody totally freak out when I threw fasting in there, but okay, all right, cool. But okay, so let's say you start off your day right in the morning with some breakfast, and it's got some carbohydrates or something. It's a bagel, or it's cereal, or it's oatmeal. Those are all carbohydrate-rich foods. Your blood sugar, you're going to see kind of go up like a roller coaster, and then your body is smart. It releases something called insulin and brings that down. I'm just going to kind of simplify. I'm not going to talk about what each one of those are. Some of you people in healthcare will know what insulin and glucose and all that stuff does. And then it kind of comes down. Our body brings it down normally, hopefully, in that range if we're metabolically healthy. And then again, lunchtime hits. We eat again. Our blood sugar raises, and then it's going to come down. And then finally at night, boom, boom, boom. This system can get kind of goosed up if we rely too much on certain foods, and we'll talk about that as we go along. But our goal is to keep this roller coaster as boring as possible. We want to just kind of keep it nice and flat, no crazy drops and spikes and things like that. For longevity, we want to keep that into a tightly controlled, regulated area. All right, we'll go to the next slide. We're almost there, I promise. So hopefully by the end of this, my goal is for you to be able to confidently answer some of these questions. What should I eat and when? You hear things like, go low carb. No, go low fat. Go Mediterranean. No, go vegan. Go paleo. It's like there's so much out there, your head will just spin. But if we can dedicate ourselves to kind of a whole foods anti-inflammatory diet for the next 21 days, that's our great starting point. And then from there, you can start to introduce some of these other foods from these other diets and say, how am I looking? How am I feeling? How am I performing? But if you're introducing that stuff just kind of at your normal, you may not know what's affecting you. So we have to press that reset button and then move forward from there. which carbs are good for me, which ones are bad for me. So I like to stay away from good and bad, but just to simplify, your blood sugar will not lie to you. So that will tell you what carbohydrates really affect you. Maybe you do well with rice, and you do really poorly eating like potatoes, which is really starchy. But the next person does great with potatoes, and then they look like a diabetic when they eat rice. So you won't really know until we start testing, which is the really cool part, again, if you're a nerd like me. How much protein do I need, for health and longevity? So our goal is kind of that sweet spot. Protein's very satiating, so we want to help keep you feeling full so that you don't have to constantly be running around looking for snacks and things like that. How do I fuel myself for strength training versus endurance? So if you guys are athletes, then we want to kind of give you some of the different ratios on that. So we can dive in a little bit on that if you want, and I'll answer questions as we go along. Is fasting safe, and how do I fast properly? So fasting has been a part of almost every religion on the planet for multiple reasons, and it does have its own health benefits. Is it right for everyone? Again, I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all, but we live in a time where, again, we're not hurting for convenience. I mean, I can go on an app and have them deliver a pizza like in 5 minutes, right? I mean, I don't have to lift a finger to eat, in our society. And so, while I'm able to do that, doesn't necessarily always mean you should, right? So, again, like Darren and his meatballs, maybe you guys kind of get that out of your systems over the next week before I really drop the hammer on you. And then what's the best way to get into ketosis? I mean, you might have heard of like a keto diet. Should I do a keto diet? All these questions. Again, I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all, but I hope to answer some of those questions along the way. So let's go to the next slide. So this is what our outline looks like. What is the reset? Okay, so we'll get to that. Week 1, which is next week, that's the 15th, is our carb test. That's when you guys will get your kits. You'll get some handouts, some kind of goal setting stuff to kind of keep you on track. And we want to set you up for success. But you're going to be testing yourself with some of these carbohydrates and say, I'm going to give this information to you. You're going to have that meal, and you're going to track, and you're going to look at your blood sugar, and you guys can even send it to me, and I'll kind of look over that for you. And then we're going to do that in the beginning and after the reset. But what is the reset? Week 2 through week 4. And I got to tell you guys, Darren was the nice one. He was like, hey, we're going to do a reset. We're going to do a challenge. I'm like, sweet. All right, what month? Let's do it. 30 days. And he's like, well, that might be a long time. So I usually do this. When I do this, it's 30 days because that's like kind of that's just almost outside of people's like comfort zone. They're like 30 days. Again, like I said, there's no real like good time to pick a month to not celebrate anything. There's always a birthday. There's always a holiday. So we settled on 21 days, and that should be just uncomfortable enough for you guys. I hope so. It is for me. I'm going to be doing this with you guys. So yeah, I'm not getting out of it alive. So that's going to start week 2. That's when we're going to really start. Boom, that day. You've had all this time up until now to clear out your cupboards and get rid of the cheese puffs and the snickerdoodles or whatever's in there deep within the crevices, and donate that to somebody you don't like maybe, and just say, hey, I was just thinking about you, and give it to them. So week 2 we're hitting the ground running then, but you will have another couple weeks to kind of mull this stuff over. Week 3, we are going to talk about your movement goals and maybe sleep. How do we improve that? How do we kind of bulletproof your sleep? I have a 7 months old at home now, and man, yeah, those first couple weeks are brutal. But there's a lot of parents in here, and guess what? You all survived, and I will too, and all the future parents will survive. But my wife and I are, we're getting back into establishing a good routine, and it makes a huge difference on your health and fitness overall. So we're going to talk about those things as we go along, and then week 4, I'll even talk about some supplementation. So if you guys want an extra little edge on that, we'll give you some advanced strategies. And then somebody's excited. I am too. Yeah. Week 5 is the end of the reset. That'll be that Tuesday. We'll end it. That'll be the 21 days, and then we're going to do the retest, or you will do the retest on yourself, and you should eat the same carb test that you did in week 1 to see, did I improve my tolerance for carbohydrates? Is my blood sugar still going wildly swinging, even after I kind of hit that reset button? And so that's kind of what this is about. So this is about number 1, finding what carbs you tolerate well or don't, and then are you making an improvement? And if not, then we can start to dive into that a little deeper, and I'll be around here. I'm not going anywhere, so we can talk about that. So I think there's only a couple slides left. So just to reiterate, the 15th that's next Tuesday. That's week 1. We're not necessarily starting the 21 days. I'm giving you guys the softest pillow landing to this thing as I possibly can. I don't want to scare you guys off. But you will get all your materials and your kits and things. So that'll give you about a week to, again, clean out all the stuff that's in the crevices of your cupboards. And you'll have a shopping list of things to kind of go out and replenish those empty spaces with. And then this is just kind of pointing to the end of the week. So again, 4th of July. Couldn't have picked a worst time to do this reset. But again, you're just one day away from getting back on it if you do slip up or whatever, right? Basically what this reset, the nutritional component of it is we're going to try to get a whole foods-based anti-inflammatory diet. So we're trying to remove all of the processed foods out of that. We're, like I said, food companies, they make their food look as appealing as possible. They put it in packages and boxes, and they have commercials for it. But again, you don't see commercials on, Whole Foods really that much, right? So it's hard to kind of put it in a box or a label, but what it's going to be looking like is plants, animals, nuts, seeds, and I'm not going to be too evil and say you can't have coffee or anything like that. But if you're drinking you got it. But if you're drinking a pot of coffee a day, that's a big red flag. Yeah, right. Okay. So it's not about the coffee or the alcohol, but it's alcohol. That's another one, right? So we live in wine country. I'll make a lot of enemies right now, maybe, but it's only 21 days. If you feel like you need to have it, save it for 4th of July or whatever you got to do. But that's going to be one that really affects our metabolism. So we really have to clear that one out if we want a true sense of if we've hit the reset button. But the coffee, that one I always get that. I'm bringing this up because I always get those questions. And if it's 1, maybe 2 cups before noon. If you're drinking it at 2 or 3 o'clock, that's a sign that something's going off kilter. So I'll get into more of those details next week as we talk about the diet. So you're going to get that kind of template. You get to work with it. So if you do prefer to eat, all those fancy vegetables and huge salads and things like that, that'll fit right in. If you want to eat, a steak with dinner and have those leftovers for steak and eggs in the morning, that also fits in this because those things are unadulterated for the most part. They're not adding a bunch of stuff in there. So typically, if it's coming in a box and a package, we want to start to give those things away. But that's a kind of a too hard and too fast rule. There are some exceptions to that, which we'll go over. But you'll get all that stuff to read it over and curse my name once you read it. Why? But I hope to make a lot more new friends after the 21 days than I do enemies. So hopefully, okay. So we're getting down to it. Next week, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to get your test kit, your instructions, some shopping lists things that are going to help you set yourself up for success. I don't expect you guys like right now, tomorrow to be like, okay, go. Just don't eat any bad stuff. That wouldn't be realistic. Although meatballs sounded really, really good. I grew up Italian, so it was just like, yeah, ding. You're going to learn how to test your blood sugar, and we'll go over that. We will begin the 21 days on the 22nd. So again, I'm still giving you that like nice soft intro to this. And you'll have that week to prepare and kind of go out shopping and all that stuff. So I think that's it. I mean, I don't know if I have too much left to share with you guys. So hopefully you gleaned a little something new today. So thank you for coming out. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah.
Matt, I think everybody was with you until you said no alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. It's not easy, to stand up here in front of these people and they just look at you like, say something good, Stare at you. But you kept saying that you kept saying, I hope it's not too painful for you. And then you would say, oh, it's not going to be that painful. But you kept saying,
yeah.
it's not going to be
Yeah.
that painful. I feel like we're in for some pain.
Depends on what your pain threshold is, I guess. So, yeah.
No, what I love about this is that this is not, I know I threw it out there on Sunday, like come do this 21-day challenge, come Tuesday, that's it. But it's not just, let's, grind together. He's educating us. He's helping us to make this, because I've done Whole30. I've done this, I've done that. You've probably done these challenges before in your life where you're like, I'm going to get in shape, I'm going to do this, but no one's guiding you, no one's helping you, you're not really getting that into it, you're just doing it, and then it's over, and it's like back to pizza and beer, and you're like, that's how it's going to go. I love that you're walking through it with us. We're coming to this on Tuesday nights for a few weeks, and we're actually putting the effort into learning what it is that we're doing for ourselves. And so if you miss a Tuesday, we're recording all of it, but we'd love for you to be here, because being here keeps you accountable to, I'm actually going through this together. And I want for all of us to get into the kind of physical health that will make us, like you said, better at serving our city. So I think it's great. I took a couple other notes. Number one, botanicals. You think I don't know what that means?
Yeah, here in California, I guess I should clarify. Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Botanical. That's true.
The last thing I want to say is that Matt's not getting paid for this. This is not a business deal for him. In fact, Matt and Bree have offered to purchase a lot of the blood sugar
Test kits,
monitors,
yeah.
which are pretty expensive actually. So I would like for them to not buy 100 because they're like $30 a piece.
A little between like 30 and 40, yeah.
Yeah, so if you would be willing to purchase those, we would love for you to be willing to purchase those. I know you guys have offered to buy a lot of them, but we don't want you to go thousands of dollars into debt for our health. But normally a class like this, over this week, you've done it several times, and it's pretty costly for somebody to jump in, but he's not charging us anything. We're not paying him for this. This is because he loves our church, loves our community, and wants to see healthy people doing great things for our city together. So this is not a business ploy for him, other than he gets to make new friends. So,
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
questions? Yeah, you can just. Yeah, so you're going to purchase them in advance, right?
Yeah, because I can get a bulk kind of discount and stuff on
I
it.
want to know the number tonight that we are looking at. Because
It'd be helpful.
some people in their mind, they're out already. They're done.
Yeah.
You're not one of them. I'm just saying, I'm guessing. Somebody here was like, I'm not doing that. So I don't want to buy them one if they're like, I'm out on this stuff.
Right.
So, but approximately, we have 1, 2, 3. We have about 50 people in here
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. So I can.
So that's really going to help me count too, by the way, on Sunday mornings. So, if we got, I don't know, 60 of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a few.
enough, or-
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a couple of people who aren't part of this church and who are familiar with some of this stuff to join in. So we kind of get a mix of people from outside the community and show them what New Vintage is all about. So yeah, it might be a handful more. So yeah, I'll take a look.
Online, can you just yell out that you're in?
1, 2, yeah.
Somebody just yelled at your house, like, So anyway, well, Matt, thanks for doing this.
Cool.
I'd love to
I'm
just
excited.
close this in a
Yeah.
quick word of prayer and just ask God to bless this because God cares about our bodies. So let me pray for us. God, thanks for Matt and his knowledge and wisdom and just his willingness to serve us. Thanks for this time together. God, I pray that this would be a really pivotal point coming out of a pandemic, a lot of sitting, a lot of